I said, let's start with policies. What are issues that Donald Trump ran on, and what has his picks?
Yeah, I've never looked at this website before, and I'm really curious to see particularly how everything's worded.
Yes.
Like, is it worded like normal or is it worded Trumpian?
Yeah. Well, that too, but like the main ones you like I said, we kind of always hear are tariffs, deportation, and Doge. Those are the three big things, right? Like, oh, we need to get rid of the Mexicans or the immigrants. Uh, so those are the big things we hear, um, and I think everybody's kind of wondering uh, with his picks, like how is exactly he's going to implement, right? Like we keep hearing like bits and snippets of it. I feel like this whole campaign has just been uh, just it's just words out there. There's no concrete plans behind it. And then now, like with all these picks coming through, like we're kind of sort of starting to see like what he wants to do with everything. All right, so
Hmm.
where do you want to start? Which topic? Fair trade for American workers, unleash the energy dominance, secure borders, war on drug cartel, stop crime, renew American strength and leadership. Okay, reject globalism, embrace patriotism. Just as an economist, like just reading this, like just somebody that's like in finance, like doing classes daily. Uh, what the fuck is this? Care for veterans. Okay. Protect parents' rights. Defend law and liberty. Well, you have a plethora of things that you want to choose from. Where do you want to go? This is
Yeah, this is
the
a tough choice.
and to go back to your point, actually, when you were talking about is it going to be Trumpian, we have drained the swamp of Washington's corruption.
Well,
Okay,
well, right. You don't even have to get into the paragraphs before you see, okay, yeah, it's written
yeah,
very Trumpian.
yeah,
You know, I want to. How are we going to renew American strength and leadership? Because coming up to this election,
yeah.
this was important to me. How are we going to
You want to guess right here? You
renew
want to read it?
Americans? I was just like, because it doesn't give away what, like, what policies are you even talking about? Like, are we talking about military? Are we talking economically? Like, what does that mean?
Right.
Like, so let's hit that plus button.
So this is where we're
So,
going. We're going on the
so we
global
can find
stage.
out.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. All right. All right. I'm gonna read a little bit of it, right? And just just so we can see what Donald J. Trump has to say about this. President Donald Trump replaced the failed policy of never-ending war, regime change, and nation building with a bold vision to pursue peace through strength. He fully rebuilt American military might, modernized our nuclear arsenal, and launched the Space Force. This has done nothing. Like, have you ever heard anything about Space Force? By the way, launched Space Force. They literally just took a piece of Air Force and just was like, "You're gonna be called Space Force." He obliterated 100% of ISIS caliphate, the caliphate. Killed its founder, leader Abu. I knew this was gonna come. Leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and eliminated the world's number one terrorist, Qasem Soleimani. Kept American
Mhm.
troops out of new wars. Brought thousands of brave soldiers, troops home from Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, and in many of other countries. I'm pretty sure. Did we just not hear? I don't know if you sent it to me or if I heard it. Like, there's going to be court martials for people that did the Afghanistan withdrawal. Did you hear that?
Um, I didn't hear that.
Yes. Apparently, there's going to be a council being put together that is going to court martial people that were involved with the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was, according to Donald J. Trump's website, his plan. This was his plan. They followed his plan to the word. He set up the entire withdrawal of Afghan with the Al Qaeda, who he wanted to, by the way,
Mhm.
invite to Camp David. Anyways,
I mean, that's his style. He takes credit for y- the good, I guess,
yeah,
what people might consider good, and
yeah,
then tries to, you know, blame the Biden administration for the bad part. I mean,
Yeah.
even in like the debates and stuff, you saw that. I mean, he's been touting that he's the only president that had like more than 14 months or something like that of no no like combat deaths, um, and that's not technically true.
Right. Right. All right. The Harris Biden administration. I want to go look at that stat, like see if it is actually true. Like see what happened. Like I'm not to question you, but like just see like what actually transpired during his presidency the first time around. I want to go look at that real quick. Harris
Well,
Biden. Yeah.
it happened, but he's taking credit. It might be 18 months or something like that. He's taking credit for a portion that occurred under the Biden administration. So like Biden had already been inaugurated, and he's counting that time. Like he did have a significant amount of time
Yeah.
where no, there were no combat deaths, but the number that he's touting is not correct.
Yeah. Okay. The Harris Biden administration has undermined military readiness and surrendered our strength to the Taliban. Again, this was your plan. You made that plan. President Trump will defend America against all
Well, it
threats.
also makes me think like how so we're both like our military is weak, it's the weakest it's ever been, but we're also like war hungry Democrats at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
how does that make sense?
Uh, yeah. Will defend America against all threats, protect America against all dangers, keep America out of unnecessary foreign wars. He will also get the Biden administration's radical left ideology out of our military, rehire every patriot who was unjustly fired to protect American people from the threat of nuclear war and hypersonic missiles. How will President Trump do this? How will President Trump defend defend against nuclear threat and hypersonic missiles? Will also build a state-of-art next-generation missile defense shield.
Was that a huge thing that like people were unjustly fired from the military? Like that
Let's see. People unjustly fired from the military under Democrats. Is that too simple of a thing? I'm sure there's. Okay.
I don't think so.
I don't think that's it. So I mean, like, no Google article about anything. Unjustly is just like show results with unjustly, please. Yes.
I mean that's a pardon, so that's not
I mean, this is not
what
even a
I'm thinking
real. This
about
is not even
either.
a thing. Like this website is. I don't even know what this website is. Congressman David Torn and Democrats call for due process for
That's deportation.
right.
So
So
yeah, I don't
no, so
know.
no, so nobody was unjustly fired. Who was unjustly fired? We don't know. We don't know. Okay.
All right.
And I kind of want to go back to what you said. Renew American strength and leadership. What part of this tells you this is going to renew America? He's going to defend you against nuclear threat. How will Donald Trump? He's going to fly into the air when nuclear missiles are fired and just like punch them out of the air one by one. This is the plan.
Maybe not, but there will certainly be AI images of him doing so.
I'm sure. I don't even know where to go with this. Like, I mean, his renew
Well,
American
it's a chicken
strength.
nothing burger. Like,
Right.
what is this like? Uh, yeah. I mean,
I don't know what to
it's
say
not.
about this.
It's very undetailed for um basically a platform website.
I mean, okay.
Usually they give you more than like three sentences.
Okay. So actually, uh, let's for a minute. Let's take this seriously. Okay. Let's say America needs to, and according to Mark Milley, right? The article I sent you a while back, America does need to
Mm-hmm.
upgrade, right? Like the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why does North Korea send its 10,000 troops to Russia, right? Like they obviously want to. They've never seen a conflict since what the Korean War, uh, and a lot of things have changed since then. For North Korea to be such a closed country, they don't get experience except for the demarcation line, right? Uh, so they send their troops, the 10,000 troops, to Russia. to gain that experience, right? Israel is gaining experience. Ukraine is gaining experience. Russia is out of the three biggest countries with military might. Russia is the only one continuously gaining battleground experience right now. They're not doing great, but they are still continue to gain experience, right? Like with the new warfare, drone warfare that's coming, that's going to be the thing. And according to Mark Milley, the United States needs to upgrade its entire system, right? So maybe if this state of the art next generation missile does need to be built, great, that's awesome. I trust the
Mhm.
words of like if we're just talking about military strength, like we obviously me and you don't have experience anything with the military. Like we have nothing to do it. Like if Donald Trump comes in and says, "Hey, we need to build a military for the future,"
Mhm.
okay, Mark Milley says the same thing. Mark Milley's saying the same thing, right? So let's say we do it. What does Donald J. Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense says that he's gonna be the one to like lead the Pentagon, to lead the literally a 2 million person force that controls the entire defense of this country. What says what does what's his name, Hegspeth? What is his
Yeah,
qualifications?
has
What are his qualifications that says that he will lead that? Obviously, Donald J. Trump is
Well, I
not
mean,
going
so
to handle the invasion.
if we use that article that you referenced kind of as a framework, then the person that we would want to be put forward in a position like this, right, would be someone who can explain to you first what AI is, right? And
You mean somebody like this
some
guy?
sort of plan
You mean somebody like this guy?
does
You know, a retired U.S. general, somebody like this guy, right?
right.
Okay.
Somebody who, I mean, you know, has Hexeth or whatever what was in the military. At least he does have that. But I guess
Yeah.
the point that I'm not gonna like draw the dots in between. The point that I'm trying to get to is all I've heard just in the atmosphere of like what he's said, other than all of his sexual assault allegations, are that he said he doesn't want military or women in combat roles anymore, which
Right.
is it's again it's like, and I'm not even gonna harp on it as like a feminist thing. It's just a he's clearly in the mindset of the Trumpian mindset of we're going to go back to a time where things were supposedly good, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, we want people who, as I was saying before, can explain to you what AI is, have a plan for how they're going to incorporate it into military use, how they're going to upgrade all the infrastructure and all the technology. But I mean, it doesn't sound like I said, it sounds like all this guy who has been put forward so far, all he cares about is just bringing it back to like a boys' club where I guess you can, I don't know,
Yeah. Like just
be naked.
for
I don't know, like what,
right. Like what is the point
and
of that?
probably abuse people
Yeah.
like without with less pushback. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I
So it's just
saw.
like,
I'm trying to find a clip
Capitol
oh,
Hill
like they
where
tomorrow.
also
He
want
has
to get
faced
rid of
serious
like
criticism.
the I mean, it goes back to like, they say we're focused on dumb issues, but they're focused on dumb issues because they also want to get rid of like the trans general or whatever. Like,
yeah,
What's your
stuff that
take on?
isn't gonna matter. It's not gonna help us even a little bit.
yeah, like this is the clip right here, right? Like Millie on women in combat. No one gives a shit if it's a woman or a guy who pulled the trigger. You're still dead.
Right.
Right. Like if we're just gonna talk about this, this to revive the American military from you think the shambles it's in, right? Why? How many women are in the U.S. military?
Well, that's a good point. I think it's like I mean, not even yeah. I mean, how are you gonna replace that number?
How do you
You want to
replace
be
this number?
drafted?
Right.
So, like, I mean, I think that's something. It's too bad we didn't have these like supposed appointments. Like, it's too bad people don't campaign really on who they might put forward for certain positions because that's something that we could have used, right? We could have said, like, okay, so women can't be in combat roles anymore. They can't really, slowly probably won't be able to be in the military at all outside of secretarial positions. So are you taking their spot? Because there's a woman who volunteered to
Right.
go into a combat role,
Right.
and she can't anymore. So
And she's
I guess
just
it's got to
as
be
much of a
a
patriot
big guy,
as
like
as a guy,
like.
right? Well, the only thing I would really add to that is like, and you kind of mentioned it too, right? Like, when you're going to kick almost 229,000 women out of the military, who's going to replace them? Right. That's one point. And then you're automatically reducing your combat capability, right? Like when you do that, like across the board, because it doesn't matter who shoots the bullet, you're still gonna die. Like a gay man can come, a trans man can come to the military and shoot. It's still gonna have the same amount of effect. Like we can just
Mhm.
like that's obvious. We don't even need to like right talk even more about that other than that. And isn't one
I mean,
of
it's also
their
like they're. Sorry, go ahead.
no, isn't one of their biggest point? I think I saw like either it was a senator or some Trumpian lover talk about like, well, we need to revive the military because not enough people are signing up for it, right? You can't have it both
Well,
ways.
right, right.
You can't
Well,
have it both
that's
ways.
what I was saying. I mean, well, like I said, the same exact people who are going to say that it's sexist that there's selective service don't want women in the military.
Right.
So it's like you, you can't exactly you can't have it both ways.
So
And there's also, I mean, I don't know like exactly. I mean, military stuff isn't like an area of interest of mine,
yeah.
but I mean, and it would be interesting to start look into. Actually, I feel like I need to start making notes of all these things that these like conversations make me think of. But it would be interesting to look into like how certain areas of the military have improved since women have been, um, allowed to be in combat roles. Because
yeah.
I'm thinking, especially, now that we have over like 20 years in the Middle East, like how much information was able to be gotten because a woman spoke to a woman,
Right.
you know?
Right. I think there's a funny thing you mentioned that too. Actually, there's a movie. I think it's a relatively new movie where the platoon of soldiers keeps going to this village to dig up. I think it's about Afghanistan. It could be Iraq. I don't know. But they keep going to this village over and over again to dig up a well, and like after a few couple of weeks, the well keeps closing, so they keep going back, and then one time, and I don't even think it was a military a personnel, a woman that goes with the convoy, but I think it's a woman journalist, right, um,
Hmm.
who speaks Arabic, and she goes, "Well, you need to stop coming here. You need to let these women. You need to stop coming here to stop digging this well because it's the women that keep closing it. They keep closing it on purpose because." The act of like going out of their village to go get water allowed them to go together and allowed them freedom from the oppressive whatever, you know what I mean, the matriarchy, or these Islamic rule that they were under, like, so it allowed them freedom from that, um
Hmm.
which is like, and that just goes to your point, right? Like, if because obviously those strict cultures, they're not going to allow a woman to talk to a military man. You know what I mean? Like, if your objective there is to
Exactly.
befriend the people of that village for information, like that's your whole entire objective, you are essentially cutting off an avenue of information against threats to you, to your military service, by not having women there.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm
It's a
sure
disservice.
that it's more extreme in cultures like that, but I'm sure, if you look at, Ukraine, I know we're not like boots on the ground really,
Yeah.
but like, I'm sure you'd get the same thing
Yeah.
because most women aren't going to want to talk to some like
Yeah.
200-pound man strapped with guns. Like,
Right. Right.
it's just common sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, that we don't even have to go
So,
far. Like, we can just talk about here, like in the United States. That happens all the
exactly.
time,
And
I'm
if
sure. Like, you feel much comfortable talking to a woman rather than, how many, I'm sure you saw the TikTok trend where it was like, how many women would rather be with a bear or a man? I think pretty much every
well,
every
right.
woman picked a bear, right? Like, you know. But
Well, right. It's like that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, it's fine.
it's like that literally in every situation.
Yeah,
Why would it be different in
right,
a highly stressful military?
right.
Like you're being occupied. Like
You're right,
why would it be different?
right. I think it's just like if you just look at it like not even emotionally or anything like that, purely logistically, like you want information coming to you in those situations where it's a
Mm.
life and death situation from any avenue. Like it doesn't matter if a child comes to says it, you know what I mean? Which I'm sure we've used those too, but I don't know. So I guess to sum it up, Donald Trump has no idea what the fuck to do to renew American strength and leadership, right? Because if he did, he wouldn't be hiring this guy. He'd be hiring somebody again
Right.
like Mark Milley. Right. Like I'm sure there's top generals out there that voted for Trump. Like I'm sure you could have got that guy. This dude is the Army National Guard. Like not to belittle the Army National Guard, but brother, come on, man. Like what combat experience does this guy have? Like I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't know much about him, so that's just a legit question
Well,
that I'm
look it up
asking.
real quick. Like what actual is there any actual combat or I mean I think he did. Like he
Did he?
got he got some sort of reward, but
Oh, so okay. I guess he did go to Samara and Baghdad. Uh,
which his military service is that's fine. And I saw a point, I don't know, I think it was like a Pod Save America thing or something. Like they pointed out that you know if I mean it says it, I think it's his bottom point on his website, his drain the swamp. Like I get that he might want somebody who's not like it could be a plus that he isn't choosing a general,
yeah.
but
But I guess
those
again,
just
like
the
it
guys
doesn't do this.
ideas that are
Like
stupid,
right?
or like he probably doesn't even know that the military is not even the technology wise not comparable to other leading nations.
Yeah. But okay, like I guess I misspoke and again I was just legit asking a question. I don't have looked at anything into this guy, right? So like he has military service. Great, that's awesome. He is able to understand how the military works on the ground. Great,
Hmm.
but we are talking about somebody that needs to have leadership at a much bigger level. How is Pete Hegseth or is going to improve this military? That's the question. And again, I mean, we kind of already know this. They're all there because they're loyal to Trump. That's just what it
Right.
is. All right, let's move on. I think we talked enough about the military. Where do you want to go?
You
We
can
already
pick
know
the
this one.
next one. We'll do every other.
Yeah, you want to do every other? You want to do care for veterans?
Oh, I meant you can pick the
Oh,
next
you
one,
want me
not
to pick the?
every
Well, I kind of just want to go back to, I guess, fair trade,
other. The American worker.
the American worker, fair trade for the American worker. Uh, all right. Trump recognized long before he became president that we can't have a free and open trade if some countries exploit the system at expense of others. President Trump replaced decades of calamitous multinational trade blunders with fair reciprocal trade that returned jobs, wealth, and manufacturing to America. Canceled the job killing Trans Pacific Partnership, replaced the NAFTA nightmare with the groundbreaking USMCA, renegotiated the one sided South Korea deal. Uh, Trump confronted unfair trade practices, imposed tariffs on China that brought millions of dollars into the federal treasury. Flat out lie. Expanded American agriculture and opened thousands of new factories. President Trump will implement 4-year national reshoring plans so that the United States no longer needs to rely on China for essential medical and national security goods. Ban Chinese ownership of all critical infrastructure in the United States. We will bring back our supply chain and build America into the manufacturing superpower of the world. So in this summer, I do you know what DARPA is, right?
What?
Do you know what
Sorry, I
DARPA
missed that.
is?
No.
Okay. Uh, this is the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. They are literally in charge of um, they're just eggheads, pretty much. You can think of them that way. All they do is research, research, research. They've done a lot, a lot, a lot. Um, Developing the internet, they're in charge of that. Developing the cell phone, they're in charge of that. That's one of their DARPA accomplishments. Let's see. I'm sure there's a million of them, really. Um, GPS, Siri, Big Dog, Cyber, Excalibur. There's like so many of them. They've done it for years and years and years and years. Um, they're in charge. They don't have a budget, pretty much. So the way they work is somebody goes in. They will either give money to corporations or companies that are developing cutting edge technology, or they themselves will. If you have an idea, you know what I mean. Of course, it'll be military controlled. It is the military branch. Um, but they don't have a budget. They will give you money and they will let you do whatever you want. They're pretty hands on free as long as they can use the arm, right? In some sort of sense. I talked to actually I listened to a talk and I actually had a conversation with the guy too. He's an MIT professor, MIT physicist, I believe. I forgot his name. I have it in my notes somewhere from my class. But he essentially, and this is where I'm going to choke on blood saying it. I do agree with this part. I do agree with this part, right? America needs to do this. America, the reason one of the biggest issues with the American worker or the American economy, you can say, is we don't manufacture a lot, right? We need to bring manufacturing jobs back. Like that does need to happen. Uh, so according to this professor, America slowly. So why did America survive? Right? Why did America survive the, the collapse after World War II? Right? The only big developed countries were obviously America and Europe. Like there was no other country out there. Like Russia's pretty young. It's going through its whole communist phase, right? India's not there. Well, India's still being controlled by the British. Africa is very, very underdeveloped. South America is very underdeveloped. So, like, the only really big developed nation because of colonialism was Europe. But because of World War II, it got completely decimated. So here comes America, a brand new country, a pioneer in the world, massive space, and its industries completely intact. In fact, after World War II, its industry is booming and it's much bigger than it's ever before. That's why America became the greatest nation on earth, right? Like that's one of the things. So, but
Hmm.
after Reagan, we slowly start to see a decline in manufacturing because of globalization and many other factors. Companies want to profit. Uh, Profits are the thing, and then I'm sure there's a chart you can see like the income tax, like in the 1960s, is massive compared to like today, where the top 1% is paying less than the bottom 99. Right. So
Hmm.
I do agree with Trump. I do agree with Trump that manufacturing does need to come back, but you can't have United States worker producing nuts and bolts, right? Like it
Well,
doesn't
that's the
work,
thing. I mean, the idea is fine, but the means of getting there
right?
don't make sense. And
And fine,
the whole
hit China
purpose is
out,
that he has an idea for a means to getting there.
right? But there's no plan here, right? Like it's just
No.
like a nothing burger. There's no plan. There's nothing to back it up with. Have outside countries, no problem, build the nuts and bolts, right? It's fine. But and those things are just getting automated anyways. So what's the big deal, right? Uh, or just fully automated everything here, and then like I think we talked about it with the dock workers a while back. You can have this advancement happening while at the same time making sure your workers are continue to develop at the same time, right? Like if you're gonna go fully automation for a dock worker, well, why don't you train the workers there to repair those machines, right? Like that can happen. And
Yeah.
the United States president can do this. They absolutely have the power to do this, right? They can put pressure. Like, for example, Claudia Scheinbaum. I don't know if I just said
Hmm.
this. She literally just implemented, and I know Mexico constitution is different, but it's still a capitalistic country, and then the president doesn't necessarily have all the power in Mexico either, right? But she just implemented a thing where companies can't price gouge. The United States president could do the exact same thing that and then Congress and then I would want Donald Trump to do this. You know what I mean? Like hey, if
We
you
have the perfect setup. He has the
exactly
trifecta, so it could be done.
exactly, if this is your promise, you know what I mean? If this is just your thing, like you want to ban Chinese ownership, sure. I don't. China does it too. You can't own anything in China without giving up your intellectual property and having a Chinese partner. Sure, do the same thing. Do the same thing. Sure. Or if you want to just be, we don't want to have critical Chinese structure here. Sure. That's fine. That's great. I have no like. I can't argue that, right? I can't argue this. This is just the policy that you want to have. If other countries are starting to become more and more domestic, why shouldn't we? Sure, it's just a tit for tat. It hurts everybody, but if that's the way of the things, that's the way of the things. But you can't expect
It
to
hurts
do
everybody, but
this.
hey.
Like this is like your way of doing this is that we're gonna do tariffs. It just doesn't work. That just doesn't work.
Well, it's interesting that's not even being. Well, I guess it wouldn't be mentioned there because that's technically about the worker.
What is about the work?
Just the section, but well, I was just saying I was thinking it's interesting that they were like the tariffs weren't mentioned, but then
Yeah,
I realized that
right.
that's
But I
the
think
section for them.
everybody is gearing up for tariffs. Uh, there
Yeah,
is
I
this.
keep saying supposed like layoffs in anticipation of tariffs, which would be pretty much counterintuitive to this section that he has on his website where he's supposedly going to be working against things like that.
Yeah.
But I would have to see if they're like verified.
So this is a video that I saw in my supply chain class. I'm taking one right now, supply chain management. Do you want to watch it? I'll play it at like faster speed, like 8 minutes. But it
This is
explains,
how AI
um,
optimizes my schedule.
but it explains the tariffs that he already
Oh my
introduced
God,
when he was
relax.
president
Now
the
I
first
have
time around. I don't know if
16.
you watched it.
Became 225.
The, I'll play it at 1.5. Cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
Before we get into tariffs,
The heart of the Donald Trump economic plan.
we should talk about the chicken war.
The chicken war is a clock and good story.
In post-World War II West Germany, people started eating a lot of chicken, specifically American chicken. Midway through 1962, U.S. farmers were on track to sell more than $50 million worth, $500 million in today's money. This made European farmers mad, so the organization that later became the European Union put a tariff on chicken. A 5-pound chicken that started as $1.60 became $2.25. Imports quickly dropped. U.S. chicken farmers and politicians were furious.
And we thought Germany's our big market for chicken, and so if we hurt the Germans, maybe we'll get them to change their mind on chicken.
So the U.S. put a 25% tariff on trucks, like Germany's Volkswagen. And it worked. Their truck sales in the U.S. fell by half, and they never really recovered. Meanwhile, Germans paid more for their chicken, and Americans had fewer truck options. It's kind of a perfect example of what tariffs do. Hurt consumers while protecting very specific industries, or attempt to get countries to change their behavior.
Right. So I want to pause it. Like, if that's your goal, right? Like, you want to change some sort of behavior, or you want to protect. If you want to, tariffs aren't like a blanket option. Like, that doesn't work. Like, his plan, I feel like, is to do a tariff and then I'm gonna lower corporate tax. And I want to go back to like the Elon video, because this kind of ties into that whole aspect of things. They targeted single industry things, right? Like, this is what you want to do. Like, hey, if you want the United States to produce more socks, right, then you tariff just socks so that industry comes to the United States. Makes sense. You just can't do a blanket thing so not everything gets expensive all at once and you just nuked your entire economy.
Right. I mean that makes more sense. It doesn't make sense to target specific countries either because companies will just go find the second cheapest.
Right. So it doesn't work.
Like
It doesn't work. So like this whole entire policy, and again, it's his entire whole thing is just about, I need to do this to create some sort of revenue, create some sort of revenue somewhere, just so I can lower corporate taxes even more. And that's going to be a problem later on.
Some might say it's
and it works to the kind of, I guess, the rhetoric of creating this like authoritarian punishment based, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh, you didn't offer goods, or you're not employing American workers, then you're getting punished, you know, like, and that's what, I don't know, that's what people like to hear, I guess.
Yeah.
They haven't been a large part of trade policy in decades. Former President Donald Trump wants to change that.
Some might say it's economic nationalism. I call it common sense. I call it America first.
President Trump has really sort of brought a lot of people out to think that tariffs might be something that's useful in America's economic arsenal in a way that hasn't been used in the past.
Here's how tariffs work and what Trump's proposals would do. Let's start in 2018, when President Trump put tariffs on
Washing machines. We're going to benefit our consumers, and we're going to create a lot of jobs.
Since then, whenever a washing machine is imported to the U.S., the company on the U.S. side doing the importing pays a tariff to the U.S. government.
Their margins are pretty low. They've got to pass that price on to consumers who ultimately pay it. That's the whole point, in some sense, to reduce demand for those goods and create space for domestic producers.
After the tariffs, not only did the price of imported washing machines go up, so did the ones made in the U.S.
There's this myth out there that if we tax imports, domestic producers won't change their prices. And that's not the case. You're creating more demand for them.
So naturally, the price goes up.
Well, of course.
And it wasn't just washers.
Right? Like, okay, so yeah, you lowered the demand for Samsung, or you lowered the quantity of Samsung and other exported items coming in, or imported items coming in. But these guys obviously going to sell more, so means they're going to sell it for more because they have to make more, hire more workers, hire more distribution channels. So obviously these are going to go more.
I mean, that's just basically like
Economics 101. That's economics 101, no? Like, that's like, yeah.
Drivers
Also,
went up
I mean,
price,
in
too.
this just time period of super greedy, like, you know, what people like to call like end stage capitalism. I saw like a TikTok today. It was just a funny one, so I don't think I sent it to you, but it was like, you know, during the Great Depression, um, the wheat or like the flour companies put like nice patterns on their bags because people would make clothes for their kids with it. They're like, now they would put like itching powder in it and say like, fuck you, don't make clothes with their shit, you know, like,
Right.
and they would charge like extra for it or something. So it's like, you know,
Right.
thinking that these prices are gonna go down.
And then okay. Sure. Again, let's go back to, let's say Donald Trump did this whole thing with the idea that American companies will go up, right? And yeah, that intended effect happened. These companies, Maytag, Whirlpool, GE, didn't necessarily have to raise their prices. They could have kept like, hey, we're gonna keep our profit margin the way it is. The American consumer is gonna buy our product, and we're not gonna make money, extra money that we are potentially gonna make, right? We're not gonna do that because we care for the American consumer. They don't think like that. That's not how they think. Like, they don't think like that.
I mean,
Right.
we already see, you know, if that was the case, if they were gonna think like that, then we would have seen it during the pandemic,
Right.
because they would have said, oh, you know, we're going through a pandemic, people are dying and they're losing their jobs, maybe we'll keep our prices down.
Right.
And we absolutely did not.
There wouldn't have been greedflation. Just as simple as that.
But I mean, back to what you said, I mean, if the Trump, you know, like if the campaign and now, you know, impending administration, if they can talk about tariffs and what they foresaw as like the outcome, then they could have also tagged on to that they would at least fight for policy change to
Right.
reduce the inflation, or like the greedflation, right?
Right.
Or like the price gouging.
Right.
And we haven't heard
No.
even a whisper of that, as far as
Because
I know from the Trump administration.
That's not the point, right? Like, tariffs, again, if you target to a certain industry, great. Like, you target it to a certain industry, fine. But then you also have to regulate the outcome that's going to happen because of that. Like, your consumers in America are going to pay for more. No, you have to regulate a cap on that no, they're not going to pay it. You are not going to be able to charge them. We're giving you more business because we're taking a piece of industry, a piece of completely off the board. We're taking your competition off the board, giving you more business. That does not mean that you go and price gouge yourself. That doesn't happen. But I don't want to go too deep into this. But this is so. Basically, they go like, well, if the tariff was just on the washers, but the dryers went up too, because why wouldn't they? Right? Because just why wouldn't they? Why would they? Why would these companies not think like, hey,
I mean, you're not going to sell a washer
and not a dryer.
$1,000 and then sell a dryer for $200.
Right.
It's $200. You know,
it doesn't make sense. So I want to go back to the Elon video to kind of just go off of this, because
really funny. By myself, laughing out loud.
His reason for tariffs is to give this a break, right? He wants to lower corporate tax. So this is what the United States revenue is. This is what the United States revenue is. This is the spending that the United States is going to do. Out of this whole thing, can't change this, right? This is not changing. This is not changing. This might go away. I mean, I want, like, so if we're just going to talk about, like, you're going to lower this to increase tariffs, you're still not, there's still this giant ass fucking gap, my guy. Like, what are we doing about this giant gap, right? So this whole, and I'm not here's where here's where I want to go into Doge, right? So this whole thing is about Elon and his plans to cut government inefficiency. Tell me, out of that picture on the red side, what is he gonna cut?
Social Security.
Right.
And Medicare.
But that's political suicide.
And some of the stuff on the top.
But this is right. Like, you go after veterans. I mean, they want to go for education. They want to go for transportation, regional development, of course. But this is essentially political suicide. No, there's no way Congress goes for this, because Elon clearly doesn't have the power to do it. I'm sure everybody has. All right, let's. You know what? Before you answer that, let's just make a disclaimer for whoever's gonna watch this. Doge is not a government agency. It's a made-up thing by Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. This is just a fact. There's no argument to that. They don't have any power. Reason why? Because Congress is the only thing in the United States that can create an agency, and they control the entire economic budget, economic policies, everything. It's Congress.
I mean, they can call themselves whatever they want, but if they can't
do anything. They can't do anything. Okay.
And I mean, even if he's gonna put out job, I guess, requests.
It's free, by the way. Those are going to be free. That's a whole other issue. Because that's violating labor law and labor ethics, but that's a different problem. But I just want to make that clear. If you did not know this, Elon does not have a power to change any of this. Okay. The only person that has the power to change any of this is Congress. Which politician do you think is going to come out and say, yeah, we're obliterating Social Security, we're obliterating Medicare, we're going to completely destroy benefits for veterans? I mean, they've already done it in the past for veterans. Like, they don't really fund the VA at all. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's really sad.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a very commonplace.
Yeah.
To make cuts.
But even then, let's just look at this, and this is much worse. This issue is much worse. Like, this gap between them is much worse. Like, if you just destroyed all of this, you still have this. You still don't match up, because you still have to pay this interest, and then next year you still have to bridge this gap plus the interest you're going to pay to get to do more spending.
Right now, right? Like, not accounting for all of the the deficit that's going to be caused by further tax cuts, further, the deportations,
right.
and, the tariffs.
Right. So, and again, I'm pretty sure every economist, Nobel winning prize economist or not, will tell you that if Donald Trump gets his way, the spending thing is ballooning 3 times or 4 times, right? So what the fuck is the point? Like, what is Elon's point here that he's gonna come in and cut this? But and that's not really where I want to go. But I like it's just like if somebody sits there and like, oh, Elon is this fucking great guy, like you know what I mean? He's gonna come and fix this thing. One, he doesn't have the power. Two, if Donald Trump's policies go through, this thing balloons 10 times. What can he even possibly cut that will like do anything like that will make any bit of a difference to the national debt the United States owes? Nothing. It's literally nothing. He can cut any of this. These are minuscule things compared to the whole entire thing. It's absolutely nothing. It's
I mean, it's like
pennies.
It's like personal finance, right? Like you can't coupon your way out of like debt. You can't coupon your way
Right.
to retirement. That's
And
basically what he's putting forth as like a solution for
right.
our national debt or for like
Right.
the way the government should be run. And that's insane. If we don't accept it for personal finance, why are we accepting it for this? You have to generate more revenue, you have to tax the billionaire.
Yes.
Sorry.
And that's where I want to go. Okay. Individual income tax is the bulk of the United States revenue. And again, you cannot run United States as a business for the obvious reason that it's not a business. It doesn't work on profit. Like that's not. What do you mean?
Right.
What do you mean?
Right.
Like that's not what it. And again, if you want to run it as a business, if that is your thinking, not necessarily a wrong thinking, you increase this, you don't decrease this. Like yeah, you gotta increase this smallest part. There's a thing in supply chain. It's called the bottleneck.
That's true, right?
Right.
Sorry.
Like, so
Okay.
there's
That's what. Yeah, the companies are looking for more. Sorry, I'm not to harp on this, but imagine like being a consultant and going to a company and being like, "Oh, we'll have you consider instead of trying to make more money, have you consider just like buying cheaper paper?"
right. Right.
Like stupid.
It's not gonna get you out of anything, but it will save you $1 million a year. But you still are gonna need the 99 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But what I was gonna say is there's this concept in supply chain, and it's like, and I'm not taking some fancy level supply chain management class. This is like your basic, like you know what I mean? Like you gotta take this to pass. It's a simple concept. It's called bottlenecking, right? Let's say you're working at McDonald's. There's stations. Somebody takes your order. One person prepares the order. Other one puts it together, and then one person packages in. One person hands it, right? Like those are different stations at a McDonald's fast food restaurant. Just simple as that. Like I'm sure everybody can understand this analogy, right? If person taking the order is where most of your time is spent, you as a business, right? You go, I want to move faster. Like I need to get as many orders as out. But then you clock everybody, and the person taking the order is taking a minute, and everybody else is taking the other 4 stations is also taking a minute. The person taking the order is your bottleneck. That's what's slowing your operation down, right? So what is your fucking plan? You get more people taking orders. Right? It's like supply chains economics 101. So if corporate income tax is your lowest, this is your bottleneck. This is the least contributing factor to your thing. How do you fix this? If you keep everything the same, if you keep the red column the same, how are you going to match this? Yeah, you could increase this, but this just hurts everybody. This fucks everybody, right. Which is what he's going to do anyways. You like, this is your working class. You can create more jobs, so this increases more. Great. But this also it's already promised to like most of this stuff anyways, because this takes care of this and this, right? But this is your smallest shit. Increase this higher.
Right. I mean, looking at it in this graph, it's actually like kind of offensive.
No, but this,
right?
but here's the thing though. Like this whole video, if you watch it yourself, like this video, all it does, it not for a single moment does it mention increasing this. All they talk about is how.
No,
of course not, right? Like you know, that's not what's gonna happen. Like that's not a whole thing with Elon is just about deregulating everything, so businesses could do things easier, so these people can have easier job. And we've already experienced that with Donald Trump's tariffs on washing machines. They didn't go out of the kindness of their heart, like, yeah, we don't have to compete with Samsung anymore. Yeah, we're not gonna raise our prices. No, they fucking match them. They're greedy fucks. That's what they are. That's just as simple as that, right? So you can't change this. And the really big issue that nobody's talking about, I have not heard a single politician talk about it, is the national debt that we owe. And next year we're going to owe more and more and more. By the day, by the second, we're owing more and more and more and more and more. That means the interest payment, the net interest payment, those are always promised. They're going to continue to pay more and more and more and more of this. Why was Bill Clinton such a great economics president? Because he balanced that. He balanced this equation right here. He made these charts equal. Right? It's just a simple fucking obvious solution to me. In this video, I will give it credit.
The corporate tax rate under
Bill?
Yeah.
When was Bill Clinton?
The 90s, late
The 90s? It was 35%. It was 35%.
Okay.
Corporate tax rate in the end, yeah. It's 21% right now. So Biden fucked up somewhere. Well, he can't change it because Congress changed it. Never mind. Yeah. So when Obama, it was at 35. Well,
that's when.
Then we had a Trump plan.
Those are the Trump tax cuts.
Right. So it's at 21%. Let's say 65.
Congress hasn't done anything, but I mean they're kind of. I mean we've been. Split chambers for a while. So.
Yeah. So the highest has been 52 in the history, and that was during the 1950s and after Reagan.
Which is like what they're looking at as the heyday, right? So
yes.
Right. So why don't we bring that back?
Right. Right. So that's just
gonna bring something back.
Yeah, like I would love that back. But you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do tariffs. You just do this and then spend it. Fuck it. Like, you could. Trump has an opportunity. Like, he really does have an opportunity here with his presidency, where he has the House, the Judiciary, and the Senate. If he wants to really help Americans, and if Musk really wants to lower the deficit, and if Trump tomorrow lowers the deficit, and there's only one way to do it, like there's no other way to do it, like without completely obliterating the economy, right? Like if you increase individual taxes, like everybody hurts. Everybody. This is like some end stage capitalism shit. Like I'm not the only one seeing this, right? Like you can increase this, but again, that just hurts the consumer. It doesn't hurt these people. Doesn't hurt at all. The only way you do is if you make this level equal to this level. Then you use your excess, keep this the same. You can even add shit to it if you just increase this. Just cut this payment down. Keep everything the same for 2 to 3 years. Cut this whole entire interest payment thing down more and more and more. You'll automatically start to see a relief on everything on the economy. That's just what I say. I mean, fuck, I don't want to say this, but I'm even willing to pay a little bit more individual income tax if it fucking helps this, gets a fucking a high-speed transportation system, right? Like, in this,
right, if it makes daily life
easier
and more affordable, then that's the point of taxes. It's not so that
these fuckers can live easily.
These large corporations can keep
do buybacks.
Kind of just milking the American public for everything they've got.
Right.
Do you think it would be worth it to at least, like, as individuals trying to put pressure on the administration to at least pass something against the price gouging?
I mean, but
like, if we ask for bare minimum, like if they're going to do all these other things, can we at least, like, do you think it would be worth it to at least?
I 100%.
I know it's not going to do much in terms of this, but
yeah, I 100%. Absolutely. I mean, like,
To me, like just looking at all this, it seems like the most likely thing that that they would be able to like. I mean, I don't think we would get far, but like maybe something. Like you can't
like
you can't inflate your prices due to greed over like so and so percentage or something like that. I don't know. But from the other video that we watched, it sounds like it's just the nature of things. I mean, unless, you know, corporations decided to have a heart, which that's
never gonna
kind of
happen.
a ridiculous thing to expect.
That's never gonna happen. That's just never gonna happen, right? But anyways, so that kind of closes things for me. Is just uh, only way. The only way, if Elon's big issue is to solve the national debt issue, if to control the net interest payments and the ballooning national debt, is his plan is to deregulate even more and more and more. These corporations can get more and more and more and more bolder and destroy everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's not gonna happen. That's just not a real answer. Because it's just not a real. And one of these things that he mentions right here at this part, he goes, well, what we're gonna do is like we're gonna take away our department, and if it turns out that we needed that department, we'll just bring it back. Bro, the Congress hasn't fucking passed anything in years. In 30 years, they've started to pass less and less and less and less stuff. Nobody's bringing that department back. That department is gone. We need to be realistic about it. So
yeah, I mean that's not how it just doesn't work like that when it's the government. I mean, a government's not a business head by one person who gets to say,
yeah,
jump how high. It just doesn't work that way. Even if there is one party completely in control, it's it was built this way complicatedly for a reason.
Yeah.
It's slow for a reason.
Yeah.
And that's why. Well, did you have any final thoughts?
The only thing was like, well, we can talk about it just to end it on this is what can the Democrats do? What are they doing? I think there's just this. I haven't really seen anything besides from Chuck Schumer just ramming judges through, but just to slow Trump down. Other than that, Democrats are so conflicted and so lost in what's happening. I think they don't understand. I think they're in a place where I don't think they're really understanding how the real issue here. And I think, well, Trump's here and he's here to stay, and for at least the 4 years, and then we'll see after that. It's gonna get bad.
We'll have to look at like the DNC chair, like that race or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. We'll have to see how that goes and who's put there, because I think that will say a lot about where the party intends to go.
Yeah. No, I think
whether it's going to work or not.
I think that's something we can explore next week. Is what is if we are to say, the Democrats are the good guys, which I don't think they are, at least currently. At least currently, they're not. There is no left party in America, and we talked about this, and we'll talk about a little bit about it more next week. They don't understand what's happening. I think Bernie's right. They're disconnected with not just the American worker. I think in America generally, I don't think they understand what's going on. I think they're taking a lot of people for granted. So I don't know. We'll talk more, but that's my thing. We'll start with
it's definitely dysfunctional. It's not working. But that being said, did you have a particular piece of media, book, video, influencer? I don't care.
Yes.
You were to mention.
Yes. I do. Let me see. Let me go here. Her. She goes by Ked's Economist. She is absolutely brilliant. Like, insanely brilliant on how the economy and how the U.S. government is so intertwined with it, and how dysfunctional it really is. If you just want to learn, I don't know if you've seen this one. I don't know if I sent it to you, but if you just want to learn what it will
Yes.
take to fix some of the issues in the United States, and then again, this is why I say Trump actually has an opportunity to do it if you can pressure you can pressure Congress enough to do it. In a sense, he's so unpredictable. If he has any kind of consciousness, which again, that's a whole different topic, and care for the American public besides himself, if he forces Congress to even just look, hey, you need to get your shit together and actually do something, which you haven't done in the last 30 years, and not care about political fallout, he could do it. But I really recommend her, and she has great insight into anything. Follow her on everything. Great. What do you got?
Yeah, and if you want to get scared, she also has a I mean, we talked about like the Medicare, Medicaid, all that. Like she goes into what exactly they would try to take away from that. So if you
True.
want to
Yeah.
doom and catastrophize that, that's a good one.
Yeah, and she's legit.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So mine, nothing to do with the economy, but I read a book recently. It's by Jonathan Migliotti. It's called Before It's Gone. Stories
Before
from
It's Gone?
Frontline. Yep, Before It's Gone. And the author is Jonathan Bigliotti.
Am I spelling it? B.
No H.
V. Okay. Yep.
There it is. So stories from front lines of climate change in small town America. So I read this recently. It's a short, it's a quick read. It's about essentially it's what it says, how climate change has impacted small towns in America. He goes, he kind of tackles all of the elements. He talks about floods, hurricanes, fires, and significant air pollution, and just kind of goes through like what real people living in these towns, like what they've gone through after experiencing a natural disaster. And I would say one of the biggest takeaways for me was how wildly unprepared local authorities are on it. So this is another one if you want to kind of sink into the doom a little bit, but also it's eye opening. You should know, what's going on, because towards the end he also does kind of project, a little bit about like what the future might look like, especially for these small towns. But my point was that local authorities, you expect when you are going to be experiencing a natural disaster that you will get some sort of alert ahead of time. There will be an evacuation plan, but
Yeah.
the stories that he lays out, it's clear that we're just wildly unprepared. It's
Yeah.
not the norm to have those. I mean, if you get like a 5-minute warning before
What are you gonna do with that?
massive flooding hits you, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Even with fires, I mean, they don't. The forward is actually about Lahaina, and it has been a couple weeks since I read it, so my dates and everything, my times might be off,
Yeah.
but those people really only got minutes notice,
Yeah.
and
And what are you gonna do with that?
you
Nothing.
can't you can't do anything. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, sounds good. Great. Let's continue next week with what the fuck are Democrats doing to deal with issues laid out by Donald Trump. Big ideas, bold ambitions, daring dreams for the American future. And how are Democrats fighting against the big ideas?
mm.
All right.